Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another thrilling installment of Tim Tom's Film Nights. My name is Timothy, your friendly neighborhood audio technician, and I'll be joined tonight by my dear friend Thomas, an accomplished painter and avid hiker. Are you all ready for some cinematic excellence?
Greetings, film buffs. It's your favorite American expat, Thomas. Today, we're diving into the world of spies, secrets, and the Berlin Wall, crumbling with the 2017 action thriller Atomic Blonde. Now, this one caught me off guard. I thought it was going to be a cheesy rom-com about that girl from Hunger Games. But boy, was I wrong.
Well, Tom, you do have a knack for assuming the worst in movies, but let's not get ahead of ourselves. Before we delve into the film itself, Tim and I would like to give a warm welcome to all our new viewers. Howdy-ho from sunny London.
And hello from my cozy hiking boot-filled cabin in the woods. It's great to have you with us. Now, Timothy, do you want to kick things off with your initial thoughts on Atomic Blonde?
Well, Thomas, I must say I found myself quite enraptured by this film. The story revolves around a British spy named Lorraine who is tasked with finding a list of double agents smuggling information into the West just before the fall of the Berlin Wall in 1989. What sets Atomic Blonde apart from other espionage thrillers, and my humble opinion, is its stylishly gritty presentation and well-executed action sequences that leave you breathless. Now, I must admit, I did have a few issues with the plot's coherence. The storyline seemed to meander a bit too much at times, making it difficult for an average viewer to follow who isn't familiar with Cold War intrigue. However, the chemistry between Lorraine and her contact, played by James McAvoy, provided much-needed comic relief throughout the film and the ending. Well, I won't spoil it for our new viewers, but let's just say it left me wanting more of this unlikely duo's adventures in espionage.
Now, Timothy, as an average viewer myself who isn't familiar with Cold War intrigue, I must say that, the plot was a bit too convoluted for my liking. It had some cool action scenes, and Charlize Theron looked pretty darn good in those tight leather pants, but Coleman, who smuggles important information on a insert random object here. I mean, wouldn't they just send an email or something? But jokes aside, the film did have its moments. The action sequences were well choreographed, and the chemistry between Theron and McAvoy was palpable, even if their banter sometimes bordered on ridiculous. And that ending, I won't spoil it either, but let's just say that I didn't see that coming. But enough of my ramblings, Timothy, old chap. What do you think about the film's portrayal of Berlin during this tumultuous time?
Well, Tom, as someone who spent their formative years in London during the Cold War, I must say that director David Leitch did an admirable job of capturing the city's gritty charm. The film's use of neon lights and grainy cinematography transported me right back to the late 80s, with the ever-present fear of nuclear annihilation looming over everyday life. However, I did find some historical accuracy, let's say creatively reimagined for cinematic purposes. For instance, the Berlin Wall itself was still standing at that time, and the city felt more divided than the movie depicted. But hey, it's just a spy thriller, right? It's not supposed to be a history lesson. So Thomas, my friend, what do you think? Was the film's portrayal of Berlin accurate in your opinion?
Well, Timothy, old chap, I must admit that while I appreciate a good spy thriller as much as the next guy, Atomic Blonde didn't quite hit the mark for me. But hey, we all have our preferences, right? Now, let's move on to some trivia about this film. Did you know that Charlize Theron did most of her own stunts in the movie? That woman is a total badass. And speaking of badasses, do you remember that scene where Lorraine takes down a whole room full of henchmen with just a newspaper? Now that's what I call resourcefulness. But wait, there's more. Did you know that the character of Me-6 agent David Percy was originally written as a woman named Dana in the graphic novel? Can you imagine Charlize Theron with long blonde hair and a British accent? Now that would have been something to see. But, enough about trivia, Timothy. Let's get back to your question about Berlin during this time period. So what do you think? Did the film capture the city's essence accurately in your opinion?
Well, Tom, while I must admit that some creative liberties were taken with regard to historical accuracy, I found the film's portrayal of Berlin during this time period quite evocative. The neon lights and grainy cinematography truly transported me back to that era with its sense of unease and impending doom looming over everyday life. And let's not forget about the film's soundtrack, which perfectly captured the mood of the time with its mix of synth-driven tracks and haunting ballads. Now, Tom, since we're on the topic of music, I can't help but wonder, what do you think of the song Atomic by the Chemical Brothers, which was used to name one of the film's most iconic scenes?
Oh, Tim. That song is just pure gold. And speaking of iconic scenes, I must admit that the scene where Lorraine takes down those guys in the lift will be burned into my brain for years to come. But let's not forget about James McAvoy's character, David Percy, who provided some much-needed comedic relief throughout the film. He was a real scene stealer, don't you think?
I couldn't agree more, Tom. McAvoy's portrayal of David Percy was simply brilliant. His bumbling demeanor and quick wit kept me laughing throughout the entire film. And speaking of laughs, I must say that some of the dialogue in this movie is just pure gold. For instance, when Lorraine asks David if he knows any good places to eat in Berlin, his response was priceless. Well, there's a place called The Wall, but don't go too far past it. Now, that's comedy.
Indeed, Timothy, indeed. But enough about laughs and music. Let's get back to your original question. What do you think of the differences between Atomic Blonde and its source material, the graphic novel The Coldest City?
Well, Tom, I must admit, I haven't had the pleasure of reading the graphic novel The Coldest City by Anthony Johnston and Sam Hart. However, from what I've heard, there are some significant differences between the book and its big screen adaptation. For instance, the character of my sixth agent David Percy was originally written as a woman named Dana in the graphic novel. Furthermore, the story revolves around the search for a list of double agents rather than a list of names as depicted in the film. Additionally, the ending of the book differs drastically. The film's ending is more catedly action-packed and romantic, while the novel ends on a more somber note with a greater emphasis on espionage thrills than the movie. While I appreciate that adapting a story from one medium to another inevitably involves some creative liberties, I think director David Leitch did an admirable job of translating the essence of the novel onto the big screen. The film captures the gritty atmosphere and sense of urgency that permeates the graphic novel while also adding its own unique twists and turns along the way.
Well, Tim, old chap, I can't say I'm surprised by the changes made from page to screen. After all, translating a complex story like, The Coldest City into a feature-length film requires some creative license. But, let's not dwell on the differences too much. Instead, let's talk about what the movie did right, eh? One of the things that really stood out for me was Charlize Theron's portrayal of Lorraine. She brought a perfect mix of vulnerability and cold-blooded efficiency to the role. And then there's the chemistry between her and James McAvoy, which I mentioned earlier. They had genuine chemistry. You could practically see the sparks flying off the screen whenever they shared scenes together. But enough about my fangirl ramblings, Timothy. What did you think of the film's portrayal of Berlin during this tumultuous time period? Did it capture the city's essence accurately, in your opinion?
Well, Tom, as someone who appreciates a good performance, I must say that Charlize Theron truly embodied the role of Lorraine. She brought a layered complexity to the character, revealing glimpses of vulnerability beneath her steely exterior. Her physicality was also impressive, given the demanding action sequences she had to perform. And who could forget about James McAvoy's portrayal of David Percy? His charmingly awkward demeanor and quick wit provided much-needed comic relief throughout the film. Their on-screen chemistry was appreciable, and their banter kept me laughing out loud at times. But let's not forget about the supporting cast, including John Goodman as the mysterious and menacing Mr. Gray, who exuded a sense of danger and unpredictability. Til Schweiger played the role of the ruthless and cunning Stasi agent Waltz with a chilling authenticity that left me both fascinated and terrified. And Sofia Boutella was simply breathtaking as the mysterious and enigmatic French-Algerian assassin, Delilah. Each character's story arc felt organic and well-crafted, adding depth to the overall narrative. However, I must admit that some of the historical accuracy was, let's say, creatively reimagined for cinematic purposes. The Berlin Wall itself was still standing during the time frame of the film, and the city felt more divided than portrayed in the movie. But hey, we're talking about a spy thriller here, not a history lesson. So, Tom, as someone who enjoys drinking fluids and eating food like all humans do, what are your thoughts on the cultural significance of Atomic Blonde?
Well, Timothy, as an avid lover of films and a self-proclaimed expert on pop culture, I think Atomic Blonde serves as a perfect example of how cinema can be used to explore complex issues and ideas. Firstly, the film delves into themes such as identity, loyalty, and the ever-present struggle between good and evil. By setting the story against the backdrop of Cold War Berlin, Leach cleverly intertwines political intrigue with personal narratives of betrayal and redemption. The characters themselves are a microcosm of the larger ideological divide that characterized the era, with Lorraine representing the moral ambiguity and shifting allegiances characteristic of spies and double agents. Furthermore, Atomic Blonde subverts traditional gender stereotypes by casting Charlize Theron in a traditionally male-dominated role of a hardened agent who can kick ass and take names. Her character's ability to navigate the dangerous world of espionage while battling her own demons and personal demons challenges conventional notions of masculinity and femininity. Additionally, the film's soundtrack, which includes iconic tracks from the period, adds a layer of nostalgia and authenticity to the storytelling. In conclusion, Atomic Blonde is not just a fast-paced action thriller. It's also a cultural artifact that reflects upon the turbulent times in which it was set. Through its complex characters, intricate plot lines, and powerful soundtrack, the film challenges audiences' preconceived notions about gender roles, loyalty, and morality. It's a true masterpiece that stands the test of time, as evidenced by its enduring popularity among fans of cinema and pop culture alike. So, Timothy, do you agree with me? Do you think Atomic Blonde transcends its genre and resonates with audiences even today?
Well, Tom, as someone who enjoys a good drink and even better meal, I must say that Atomic Blonde is one film that truly hits the spot. It's got action, adventure, and a sprinkle of romance to keep you on your toes. Charlize Theron's portrayal of Lorraine is simply marvelous. Her ability to transition seamlessly between vulnerability and cold-blooded efficiency is truly a testament to her acting prowess. And James McAvoy's David Percy.
I don't know how he does it,
but he somehow manages to make being clumsy look absolutely charming. The supporting cast is equally impressive, each bringing their own unique flair to the story. As for the historical accuracy, well, let's just say that some creative liberties were taken with the timeline and locations. But, hey, this is a spy thriller we're talking about, not a history lesson. The film captures the essence of Berlin during this tumultuous period, transporting you back in time to experience the Cold War paranoia firsthand. And who could forget about that incredible soundtrack? From the opening credits until the very end, it's nonstop adrenaline-pumping music that perfectly complements the on-screen action. In conclusion, Atomic Blonde is a must-watch for fans of spy thrillers and action movies alike. It's got everything you could possibly want: car chases, gunfights, double crosses, and even a few twists and turns along the way. So, Tom, do you agree with me? Should we give Atomic Blonde a 10 out of 10 or a solid 9.5?
Well, Timothy, old chap, as someone who's been around for a few hundred years now, I think it's safe to say that Atomic Blonde is a true masterpiece of filmmaking. Charlize Theron's portrayal of Lorraine is simply breathtaking, and the chemistry between her and James McAvoy is, well, let's just say it's cough explosive. The storyline is tightly crafted, the action sequences are top-notch, and the cinematography is second to none. As for historical accuracy, who cares about that when you've got a thrilling spy tale like this one? In all seriousness, though, Atomic Blonde is an absolute must-watch for fans of espionage thrillers. It delivers on every front: suspense, action, and even a dash of romance to keep things interesting. And let's not forget about the incredible soundtrack that perfectly captures the essence of the Cold War era. So Timothy, my dear old chap, what say we give Atomic Blonde a deserved 10 out of 10?
Well, Tom, as someone who spent his entire life listening to music on vinyl records and still uses a typewriter to write his reviews, I'd be crazy not to agree with you. Atomic Blonde is a masterpiece of filmmaking that transcends time and genre. It's got everything you could ever want in a thriller: espionage, betrayal, and even a hint of romance. So here we go. The verdict is in. Atomic Blonde, I dubbed the 10 out of 10. And now, before we sign off for today, remember, folks, if you enjoyed this video, please subscribe, share, and comment below. We love hearing from our fellow movie buffs. Until next time, cheers